Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Into the Badlands, Leopard Stalks in Snow. And this was another really great episode, giving us more information upon the world, what people think of it, while also kind of advancing the story on. Now granted, there wasn't as much action in this one, but the action scene that we did get at the end was really pretty good. So, we had various kind of focuses on this episode. We got a kind of good focus on Lydia and Quinn, especially the aftermath of Lydia's attempted attack on Quinn's hideout. It was really kind of well done seeing her shell-shocked and looking and seeing her forces pretty much decimated and seeing various body parts strewn around, people missing legs and arms and kind of trying to figure out what's going on while Quinn and his forces go through the kind of carnage and taking out anyone who survived, and then seeing Quinn talking to Lydia. And then he takes her back into the base and they're talking and he's like, oh, well, you've come here to kill me. And he's like, no, I've come here to avenge my son. And seeing her just pissed off at him, he's like, well, you know what, that hurt me more than it hurt you. And then he, of course, gives her the dagger, saying that, well, I gave Ryder the same choice, he just wasn't able to go through with it. And then she pretty much goes up to stab him, and saying that he liked that about her, that she would tell the truth and pretty much follow through with it. And then he does kind of weird thing, pretty much lets her kind of stab him through a little bit, and then takes his blood, kind of puts it on his lips, puts it on her lips, and then they start making out. So that was kind of a weird part, just showing Quinn's kind of completely unhinged mental state, and I don't know what Lydia's doing. If she still has feelings for Quinn, granted she's got feelings for Quinn of to kill him, but to see what's going to happen with that. Because that's kind of where we left off with her throughout the rest of the episode, her kind of making out with him and kind of left unsure of where they're standing or if she's going to keep going after him. So another big thing we saw was Sunny and Bajay got to this doctor dude that was recommended by the doll from the Commandant. So we see them going in, seeing these guys with gas masks on, and Bajay's like, well, they're gaspers, poor man's opium. And, of course, they're all in their drug haze and everything, and, of course, Sunny brings in the doll, and he's like, alright, bring her in and everything, and we see him talking with the doctor, and he's like, listen, I've seen bad men, and I've seen all other kinds of men. Don't know if they're any good men. And I know that you're not a bad man. So, don't do that on yourself. Because he was explaining that she was hurt because of him. And it was kind of cool to see the doctor be like, you trying to get me riled up? Because I know I've seen bad men. You're not a bad man. You might have done bad things, but you're not a bad man. So, they're kind of getting all kind of set up and doing their things. And of course, Bajay is using the gas mask and looking at porn and everything, and we see the Abbotts roll up, and he's like, oh crap. And this was a pretty interesting scene, because then we see Bajay kind of trying to get gas ready to go and everything, and we see them hunting through with their device that senses the gift. And it's really kind of interesting to see them going through with it and trying to get a pinpointed location. It's more like a Geiger counter kind of thing than anything else. So it kind of leads to believe that we don't know the exact nature of this gift, if it has some parts mystical, some parts to do with radiation, of some kind of superhuman kind of thing, superhuman experiment. So that kind of leads to some cool kind of different lore going into what this is about. We see that Bajay kind of goes into this water to kind of get them off his scent because they think they're trying to find the boy. And it's like, okay, what's going on here? So that leads him to go to the car and telling them about the Abbotts, that they're single-minded and crazy and all that. And Sonny's like, well, we gotta go after him because of MK. He wants to help MK. And Bajay's like, please, anything else. Just don't ask me to do this. And then, of course, Sunny goes off on his own. Another part that we get to see is Vale and the Widow and everything. And we see Vale running through the woods trying to escape Quinn's second in command. And she is found by this other mysterious woman. later on, we see Tilda talking to Odessa, one of the dolls, saying that she's going to leave because she doesn't like that the widow is teaming up with Quinn. And Tilda kind of explains her whole kind of like relationship with the widow, how she was a cog and was being used by the widow's husband for sex, and had to say that she loved him and all that, and she had taken a bread knife from the pantry and was getting ready to kill herself, and he didn't come that night. And the widow apologized for not killing him sooner, and that was the first time that she generally said that she loved someone. And then Odessa's like, alright, I'll stay, but not for the widow, for you. And then kisses Tilda. And of course it's like an initial kiss, and then they actually start having a kind of prolonged kiss. And of course Waldo kind of like, well, we need to like talk about stuff, and of course they kind of like freak out, go their separate ways, and then Tilda's like talking to Waldo, and Waldo's like, listen, I don't care who you have a crush on, just don't do the same mistakes that Sonny did. And he's like, just as I thought I was getting through to you and everything, and of course they're like rolling through, and he's like, oh great, another batch of runaways, and then we see that Vale and the woman come out, and of course Tilda's talking to her like, oh, what happened to Sonny and MK, do you know about them? And she's like, no, and then she's talking to the widow and Waldo and all that, and they're like, well, okay, you could stay here and everything, can you tell us where Quinn's at? You don't have to go there, but can you tell us? She's like, yeah. And then the widow asks her to translate more of the book, because she's like, that's more important than this war at the moment. This could win the war for us. And then, okay, she goes off to do that. Then we get to see that Quinn's at his base and everything, and the widow sends him a message to come to her place unarmed with no one. And of course, Quinn doesn't do that because he doesn't like being told what to do. So he comes in, stealth like kills one of her guards and everything, and then you see the widow with her badass stuff being like, I thought I told you to come on armed and alone. And you clipped one of my guards. So Tilda then just takes out one of his and she's like, yeah, alright, this is cool. So, and they're talking about forming an alliance and everything, and he's like, well, what about afterwards? Well, then we'll just have to see who kills who first. And it's like, yeah, they're pretty much alphas, and granted, they're in the not best position, but of course afterwards they're going to try and fight to kill each other. It's an alliance of convenience at this point, because Quinn's crazy, and yeah, he doesn't have a big enough force, but he can strike from anywhere. The widow is kind of at a disadvantage at the moment, but yet she has the popularity and everything. Now granted, seeing how this power is changing her and changing her goals is kind of interesting, because at first she's like, I want to break the Badlands, and granted that is still her overall goal. But she's got to make compromises, of course, like aligning with Quinn, who is like the essence of a crappy Baron. A shitty Baron who fucks over people, yet can somehow inspire people. It's interesting to see these two together to try and essentially break apart the Badlands, and then of course at the end fight over the remains to see who comes out on top to remake it in their image. That's going to be a pretty good key showdown. So, of course, they like agree to that, and then Quinn wants to talk to her alone, and wants Vale and Henry, and of course she at first is hesitant to give them up, but towards the end we see that Vale hasn't made any progress on the book and is giving Vale and Henry back to Quinn as he comes out of the shadows on top of a balcony. It's like, well, that sucks. You were free for about an episode, so you have to keep going on, Vale. She's pretty smart and crafty. We'll have to see how she gets out of this, or if it'll take Sonny and other people to kind of orchestrate a scenario for her to get out to him. So then the biggest kind of part of the episode you saw is like MK and Ava, because MK is like going through, finds like this place to get some food and everything, and this dude bashes his head in and he's bleeding. But a big key part of this is he does not immediately transform with the gift, which leads credence to, like, when he went into the mirror chamber, that something occurred. He either lost his gift or gained some kind of tenuous control over his gift that he does not yet know how to exercise. because then Ava comes and kind of saves him, and they kind of like run off. And they get to this place that's kind of this weird Christmas place, and they're just kind of like talking about everything, about like the master saying that everything's a cycle of rebirths, that it's endless and all that, and just the weird rituals that people did in this place, kind of like talking about why the world is in the state that it's in, what the world before was like to have this, what they celebrated if they had strange rituals and all that. And we see MK going through all these different magazines and seeing Wired and referencing the place that Azra, that they've been trying to find. It's like, look, the Master's been lying to us. This thing's been around for like hundreds of years. And of course, this kind of shakes Ava and everything. It's like, oh crap, what's going on? So we get to a point and the abbots find them. And of course, they're like hiding out. And one of the abbots like grabs onto the Christmas lights and it like lights up and everything. So they're like hunting around and they're like getting to a back part and Sunny finds them. It's like, yes, they're reunited and everything. But the other big abbot at the top of the stairs comes and so do the other two abbots and we get a really good fight scene here. And they're kind of going at it and we see the first part of it is Sunny is like going after the big abbot and they start taking everything to the other room. And they're at a point where Sunny's got his back to the other two and he's like, MK, you're going to have to use your gift. He's like, I can't use it at the moment. I don't know what's going on. And, of course, it was like, well, I still have control over it. And she goes into her mode, and the rest of the abbots do. And that's where it really starts getting pretty good. Ava's able to hold off the other two abbots for a good part. She's actually holding her own a lot better than I thought against two people who are using the gift as well. And of course, Sunny is going after the other guy and not faring as well, getting knocked out to a certain point at one point. And then the big guy kind of going in and MK and kicking him until he's like spurting blood. And Ava gets taken out as well and has a serious wound. And then, of course, we see this truck come in. And it's like, holy crap. And this one abbot is about to go after MK and one of the really good kills is that Ava was not dead and like thrusts two fingers through the back of the neck, through her throat, and kills the abbot. It's like, holy shit, that's pretty fucking badass. Of course, Ava then goes down and we see isn't really in any condition to continue on. She's pretty much dying and MK's like trying to console her and she's like, well, what if everything that the master said was a lie? What if I don't get reborn and all that? And that's kind of the end that we see for her. We see also that Bajie was the one who came in the truck and said, I always wanted to drive that truck. And we find out that he had the gift as well, that he has been a part of the Abbots. Like, that's a pretty cool twist. And then he's fighting the other big abbot, called him Roger. He's like, oh, you're a little bit slow. And he's like, yeah, but I didn't forget everything. And does this technique on the abbot that he's like, kind of like, not completely immobile, but he's like really severely hampered. And then he's like, Sunny, you better finish him off. And then Sunny goes in for the finish, and he like slices him and everything. But the abbot is able to do this technique on him that is kind of reminiscent of the five-finger death like technique. But he's still alive and everything. He's like, well, finish me off. And then Sunny slices his head in half, and it's really cool and really well done. And I don't know. I really like those two kills, and both for their different reasons. One because of the brutality that Ava was able to do on the abbot, and one for the like finesse and brutality that Sunny was able to do on the other abbot. And of course, this brings Sunny to where Ava's dying and everything, and then Sunny collapses like, holy shit, what does this mean? What was this technique that the abbot did? And it's like, that's where the episode ends off. It's like, holy crap, I can't wait to see what happens, because I really like Sunny's character, and I kind of want to see more of his progression. I wouldn't mind if at some point we get to the point where he dies and it more becomes MK's story. But I still think there's more to go with Sunny's story, especially doing something with Vale and Henry, and of course all the unfinished business within the Badlands. So that's where I'm really hoping that this will kind of go, that we'll probably get some interesting information on the abbots and Azra and all that, and kind of see the big war kind of kick off pretty soon in the Badlands with the Widow and Quinn against the other Barons, and then Sunny and MK entering the mix and just seeing what kind of awesome crap happens. So, those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.